Hi my loves, welcome back. Welcome to my channel. Welcome if you guys are new. Today we're going back to the basics. We have a classic book recommendations video for you of quick, fast-paced, addictive book recommendations that I think you could read in under 24 hours. Now I'm saying this because, as I said, they're very fast-paced, they're very quick. I personally couldn't put these books down, but I do understand that not everyone has 24 hours to just read a book. Like I totally get that. It's more just a way of saying that these book recommendations will grip you and not let you go, and every moment you're not reading them, you will be thinking about reading them. Personally, I kind of crave these book recommendations a few times a month, especially if I've been reading like some really lengthy, intense books. I'm like, I need a really fast-paced book recommendation to just get me. I don't feel slumpish, but like you kind of just want to like turn your brain off and have a really fun time reading a book. So these are what those recommendations are for. I think they're really fun. I think they're really fast-paced, and yeah, we're gonna go pretty rapid fire because we've got quite a few to get through. And I don't want this to be like a super lengthy recommendations video. I want to get you the book recs. We're covering most genres, I think. We've got most genres here, so that's good. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I am gonna start with thrillers, and most of these thrillers are all of these thrillers are ebooks because I usually read them on like Kindle Unlimited or something like that, or from the library. So we're gonna go rapid fire through them first. Personally, I always reach for a thriller after I've had like some really intense reads. I always love a thriller. The first one I feel like I don't see that many people talk about is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This is a YA thriller, but it is one of those thrillers where you have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of suspects, and like where's it gonna go from there? I love those kind of thrillers. What are they called? Like almost like forced proximity, a whodunit kind of thriller, like classic Agatha Christie vibes. Basically in 5 Survive, we are following a group of teenagers. They have hired out like this bus van type situation to go on this trip. I think they're going to like a festival or something like that. And they're trying to get to the campsite and like get ready to park for the night, and they suddenly get a flat tire. I don't know how much I want to say about this one because I feel like going in really blind is great, but it is basically set over that one night of them parked on the edge of the road. They have a flat tire. What's going to happen? Who can you trust? Everything like that. It is so fast paced, so addictive. I remember I picked this one up in an afternoon and literally like did not leave my couch. Honestly, if you have recommendations like this, please let me know because I crave a thriller like this. This is actually my favorite Holly Jackson book. So I do love the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, but this is my favorite book by her by far. So highly recommend for a YA thriller. Next is pretty much anything Freda McFadden, but my top ones from Freda McFadden are Never Lie, The Housemaid. I do think The Housemaid is very appropriately hyped. If you haven't read that book, you're about to have a really fun time. And Ward D. So the Never Lie is basically about a couple who's hoping to buy a house, and they go to this open house inspection, but when they get there, it's the middle of a snowstorm and the real estate agent didn't turn up. They basically decide to bunker down in this house that they're inspecting until they can go outside again and leave safely. They start to discover some weird secrets, who this house has belonged to in the past, and it starts to get really weird. The Housemaid, I'm sure you all know what The Housemaid's about, but if you don't, we are following our protagonist Millie, and she gets hired to be a housemaid for this very rich couple. The wife hires her, the wife has a kid, and then there is also a stepdad to the kid. Ward D is basically set in a psychiatric ward. I feel like that's all I need to say. It was crazy, that one. That one was so chilling to me. Probably like the scariest one I've read by her, but all of these books were so incredibly addictive to me. Could not put any one of them down. The only other thriller I always recommend is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Honestly, a lot of Alice Feeney thrillers are gonna get you just obsessed and like addicted to them pretty quickly, but Rock, Paper, Scissors is always my go-to. Let's get into this pile of physical books. First of all, we have some literary fiction. So number one is The Correspondent. So The Correspondent is outside my comfort zone. It's not what I would typically read, but if that's the case for you as well, this is your sign to just like pick it up because it is so incredibly wonderful. I say it's quite easy to read because it is a very short book and we are actually just reading letters, like correspondence from our main protagonist, who is Sybil. She's 73 and still uses correspondence as her main form of communication. We're kind of like backtracking on her life, reevaluating everything that's happened in her past, and looking at how she kind of keeps her close relationships at an arm's length through the form of correspondence. I was really enjoying this book. It was good, it was fine. And then the last like 10 pages of this truly blew me away. And it was just one that like once you started, you were just intrigued. And also because they're just letters, they almost act as chapters, right? So it's very quick to read. It just feels like you're finishing chapters over and over again. And you're like, wow, I'm speeding through this. And you are. It's a very short book. But I would recommend this to pretty much anyone, no matter what you read. Next for literary fiction is In Her Defense by Philippa Malika. I picked this one up because it is a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. I just found it really interesting. It's not my typical read again, but it was quite interesting. So basically we are following a court trial. Now character, like our main perspective that we're looking at this court trial, is honestly quite removed at the beginning at least. So we kind of feel like it's an objective view into this court trial, which the trial is following a rich mother who has basically brought her daughter's therapist to court because she is accusing this therapist of brainwashing her daughter and convincing her that she's had like this traumatic past and cutting contact with her family. It's a very interesting book. It definitely delves into the side of like rich people's problems, how they grow up, how they live in like this different universe. So if you kind of love rich people drama, I feel like you'll really like it. But again, we are focusing a lot on the court case. So I think if you enjoy court cases, I have like this thing for court cases, okay? Maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much, but it was really interesting because we were jumping from the court case and like seeing this case play out back in time and kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I just think it was structured really interestingly. So again, one I think you could really speed through. I only had 2 contemporary fictions. I'm so sorry. I think we've got romances and then the rest are fantasy. So number 1 for romance is, should we put it up here? Is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez is one of my favorite romance authors, and Yours Truly was my favorite book. It is still my favorite book by her to this day. I loved this book because I thought it was such a realistic representation of love and the trials and tribulations and like challenges that our main couple overcome as a couple and like navigating their way together in like their busy lives, but also just independently. I think were really realistic, really, really refreshing. It just wasn't your typical romance. Basically, we are following Brianna and Jacob. I would say it's a workplace romance technically, but just the way these characters are explored through this is absolutely wonderful. And this was one, once I started it, I could not put it down. I think I just instantly connected with these characters, like both of them. As I said, delve into struggles that I think a lot of people deal with. And I think it's a reality that these can get in the way of like forming relationships, getting to know new people, everything like that. It was just a really beautiful story on love and finding your way to your person and everything. And these two are soulmates. Also, Jacob is like my favorite male protagonist I have ever read about. I think if you like Abby Jimenez, you will love Ashley Poston. Ashley Poston writes romance books, but they usually have this element of magical realism in them, which is basically just a little sprinkle of magic. So the 7-year slip, we are following our protagonist, Clementine, and she is living in her aunt's apartment. One day though, she comes back and there's a random man in this apartment and she realizes the apartment has traveled back 7 years. So it's like this time traveling apartment. A really beautiful story. I did cry in this one a little bit, but I just think it was, again, a very like fresh perspective on love. I will say all of these romance books that I'm talking about, they're not your typical romance book. Like they don't follow your typical plot progression. And I feel like we definitely focus on character development, individual growth, as well as the relationship. Like the relationship is almost what drives the story, but we have like all these little like paths that we're still exploring. And I personally love that in my romances. It's also just one that once you start, I don't think you'll be able to put down. It was so beautiful. Ashley Poston's writing is really like flowery, it's really lyrical, and it really just immerses you in it and you get lost. Next we have probably the best book I have ever read. I'm not even exaggerating. This is an art copy, which is why it looks a little bit different, but this is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a soul author of mine. I say that because every single book I've read of hers, I have connected to on this insanely deep level that I truly didn't think was possible. Reading a book, these are like, I would say they're romance, contemporary fiction with a line of romance usually. Taylor Jenkins Reid has this very unique ability to write about mundane topics that I would never pick up, but I see her name on it, I see that she's written it, and I'm like, I'm gonna pick it up. When I say that, I mean like Carrie Soto is Back. That's a tennis book. I would never pick up a tennis book. I'm not a tennis fan. Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote it, so of course I'm gonna pick it up, and I loved it. This though, Atmosphere, is her newest release and truly was the best read of last year. I read this so quickly. I was bawling my eyes out in this multiple times. We have such intense character growth. Our character is just going through so many stages of her life, really key stages, that I think really important to explore. It's also just an emotional journey. I haven't even said she's a NASA space agent, like an astronaut essentially, and she is training to go up to space. She is training with this group of people, so she's kind of got this very tight-knit found family aspect almost, because she's working with them every single day. We also delve into like family dynamics and complicated relationships with your family. This book was everything I could ask for and more. I will say the love story, to me, it's like beautiful and I loved it, but it wasn't the main reason I read this book. And I think if you go in expecting this incredible love story, I don't know, I don't want to say you'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't go in expecting that. I'd just go in expecting a literary fiction and then there's a love story on the side. That's what I would expect, and I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. But truly, if I can recommend any book ever in my lifetime, I would have to recommend Atmosphere or just anything by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, last for romance. This one's a little bit more lighthearted, and I read this one recently, so you guys might know it, but it is Ready or Not by Cara Baston. Now, this embodies some tropes that I would usually steer away from, but the way Cara Baston writes is very immersive and it's very 2000s chick flick feeling. Again, we have great character growth. We have a very complex situation that our character's trying to digest and overcome. So we're following Evie, and she ends up getting pregnant from a one-night stand. So this is an accidental pregnancy trope, which I usually do not like. It's done really well in this, okay? You just have to trust me. This is not in her plan. She's also just not that kind of person that has like one-night stands very often. This is just the last thing she expected. And she basically is just starting to overcome this, figuring out what she wants to do with her life and reevaluating everything essentially. And then we also have a romance line that plays into it. But I just read this one so quickly because I just think it's such a refreshing read. I will say, I've seen some people say that they really don't like Eve as a protagonist. I loved her. I thought she was really relatable because I was like, I wouldn't know what to do in that situation either. But I have seen some people say that she was really annoying. So I do think it's a 50-50. But overall, just like the setting and the vibes of this, I thought were really great. Okay, now we're delving into fantasy. Now, all of these fantasies are pretty short. They're on the shorter side. Number one is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I know you're gonna be like, Freya, I can't read that in 24 hours. But look, I did, but I just have never been so instantly connected to a series before. Instant chemistry for our characters. Once I got a hold of this book, I was like, you're not going anywhere. I am finishing you. It's just such an emotional journey. If you don't know what the Green Throne Saga is about, I'm sure you do, if you know me at all. They're essentially set in the city of Janloon, and in this city, there is this substance called jade, which can basically make you physically and mentally stronger. It just enhances your powers, I guess. In this city, there is also two very prominent clans. We are following the... I had a blank. Wait, who are we following? Oh my God, I'm having a blank at the clan. We are following a specific clan. It's based off like on the Hong Kong gang scene. So it's very interesting, very political. Like politics is the forefront of this book, but also it has some of the most conflicting, complex, but lovable characters I have ever read about in a book. There is also just so many moments your jaw will be on the floor. Whilst you might not read this in 24 hours because it is a longer book, I think you will eat this book up. I think you will read it so quickly because it is truly that addictive, that fast paced, and the world that you are immersed in is unlike anything. Like, please, if you take any fantasy recommendation from me ever, take Jade City. Oh no, that's not true. There's a few others I would recommend as well, but Jade City is just one that I think you will so quickly read. I also just read this series back to back because of how they end. So if you're kind of wanting a series, it's a trilogy to read back to back and just like get into this world, highly recommend. For a little bit of an easier one, this is The Rose Bargain. I want to see how long this is. 370 pages, so not too bad, I feel like. This is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This is a romantasy, a YA romantasy, your classic, easy books to just get lost in, read. If you like The Selection or Cassandra Clare, I would highly recommend this book. Basically, we are following a season. So when debutantes go and present themselves as they did, it's like kind of Bridgerton meets fantasy in a way. But in this world, the thing that makes it a little bit different is that you have a chance to bargain with the queen. So you can bargain equality. So if you wanted better hair, you could be like, I want better hair, and in return, I'll give you my singing voice or something like that. You will bargain with the queen to get better qualities to win you better suitors, essentially. It's a really fun concept. It's really fun. I do believe the second one is out as well, so you can go into the second one as well. But I just thought it was so fast-paced, so easy to read, and I couldn't put it down. Next, I feel like I haven't talked about this series in a hot minute, and I sometimes feel bad because I'm like, this series holds a special place in my heart. This is the Akane series by Lynette Noni. Now, again, on the slightly longer side, it's kind of hard to find a fantasy book that's not too long. Just over 400 pages, so not awful. But this is a YA fantasy series. It's the start to a series, the Madoran Chronicles. It is basically a magic school. So we are following Alex and realizes that there's this whole other world of magic that she has to learn. We have a really great sense of found family. If you're just craving a really fun YA series, like it's just very comforting, very wholesome. It's gonna make you feel really happy and giddy and bubbly inside. And I think it's one that when you sit down and read it, you can just really get lost in. I think more people should read this series, if I'm gonna be completely honest. And it's just a really fun series to get into. It's also a very easy series to read. Like there are quite a few books, but they're all pretty similar lengths, and you just grow such a strong connection to these characters and like the found family that you have that it's really hard to let go. Next, I read this one quite recently. It's an ARC copy, so it looks a little bit different, but this is Cleopatra by Sarah L. Arifi. So this is definitely on the shorter side. If you want a fantasy book that's actually short, this is like 320 pages. Basically, we are following the life and legacy of Cleopatra in this. We are debunking some myths. I do think a lot of creative freedom has been taken to this, but if you love Roman or Egyptian mythology, I think you'll really like this book. It was a really refreshing perspective. I will say it's very fast paced. We're following history very, very quickly, basically following Cleopatra like taking over kingdom and taking over the role once her father has passed, and how she navigates that, her relationships with different rulers in this world, everything like that. Not too much to say, but I think it's a really easy one to just pick up and read. This one's really fun. I will say, I think there are slightly different publishing dates for this. I think it's out everywhere now, but don't quote me on it. I loved this one. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and you guys know, I'm not always a retelling fan. I can often get turned off by that, but this was really, really fun because we have vampires. I love vampires. I will always love vampires in my book. We are following our main protagonist who has to go captive in a way. It's like a bargain that her father has made with this prince vampire who lives on the hill and kind of looks over this town. He makes a deal and he has a debt to pay with the vampire. So he sends his daughter off, poor daughter, to live with this vampire. She gets the challenge that if she can break his vampiric curse by the end of a year or something, she can go free. But if not, she has to become his wife. Oh my God, so much fun, so swoon worthy. I always, always, always recommend the Crimson Moth. It is also known as the Heartless Hunter. If you want a quick, fast-paced romantasy series, it is a duology now. I sped through this book. I read this book in 24 hours when I picked it up. I remember getting the arc of this and being like, whoa, I've just unlocked a gem. It is basically about witches and witch hunters. It's like an enemies to lovers between a witch and a witch hunter. I will say I liked the first one a little bit more, but it was still really, really fun. Our main protagonist is the kind of head witch in this world, and then she's going undercover to like these balls and everything like that. It's just really atmospheric, very fun. Lastly, I have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. Now, this one is very much, I would say, bordering on literary fiction, fantasy realism. So for all my literary fiction fans, I think you'd really enjoy this. I don't see this book talked about too much, but personally, I really liked it. It's very odd. It's very quirky, and I feel like I love Olivia Blake's books like that. I love when she does a quirky book. This one is essentially following a realtor who has a ghost problem. I think she's a vampire. Yes, she's a vampire. But she is a realtor and she is trying to sell this house, but this house has a ghost problem. We are also dealing with the godson of death. He plays a very key role in this as well. We just have so many different characters. We have so many different mythical beings. It's just a very atmospheric and moody kind of world. If you're in winter, like I am at the moment, I would highly recommend this. I think it's a really moody kind of read. Again, it's very short. I think we're only like 370 pages, so not too bad for a fantasy. It's a standalone, and Olivia Blake's writing is just very, very moody, lyrical, flowery, but just, it just encapsulates you, honestly. You are so immersed in it so quickly, at least I am. And I honestly think this one deserves a lot more hype than it gets. But yeah, those are all the books I would recommend if you want to read a book in 24 hours or less, or you just want to maybe a reading goal. I know that reading is obviously quality over quantity. It's not about the numbers or the amount of books you read, but sometimes you do just want to read a book in a night and feel that sense of accomplishment, but also just lose yourself in a book. It's really the best feeling ever. I hope you got a good few recommendations from this, maybe some you haven't heard of before, but thank you so, so much for watching. If you have watched till the end, thank you so much. It truly means the world to me. I love you guys so, so much, and I will see you in my next video.